And we're back with another episode of NBA Observations. It's Gerald Glassford. Truly appreciate you joining us. Make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe. Subscribe today to get the latest notifications of when the latest, of course, NBA Observations, Lakers post game, snack pack, Laker Holics, whatever shows that we do on this channel come right to you when it does. So go ahead and make sure you do. And if you want to become a member, you get all of our stuff early, including this video right here. And that's just $2.99 a month indeed. But it wouldn't be NBA Observations without a good man indeed. It is, of course, the guy behind so many great articles on the J Notes. It is, of course, Mr. Matt John, part of the fan-sided experience. Didn't think I would slip that in, but I did. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Had a little trouble sleeping last night, but that's just life. So hopefully I'll sleep better tonight and more going forward.
Absolutely. So we're starting off on a bad note because we did get the feedback on the MRI for Luka Doncic, and it looks like he is out indefinitely, at least for the rest of the regular season, at the very least, with a grade 2 hamstring injury, as been reported on by several outlets. Obviously, this is very distressing news. Your thoughts, my friend, on it, because I know they heard mine on the Lakers post game. I know that Joe and I went at it. One of my fellow panelists, Joe Sorrell, went at it because I said he was grabbing it in the first half, and you're down by 32. Why is he still in there? But he argued, because you can always come back. And I just thought, okay, ridiculousness has hit a new level. But your thoughts on the whole injury and how it affects the Lakers from here?
Well, it is a shame, like more than anything, because like it was all like I just can't imagine what it's like to watch your team get blown out, and then on top of all of that, like lose your who is your best player, like, and at the worst time too. And you got the Lakers were playing their best basketball of the season. Like all of this is just like, man, like there's a fan base that knows exactly how the Lakers are feeling. It's Duke, but not trying to rub it in by any means, but I am intrigued to see like where things go from here with Luka, because hamstring injuries, they're not as dire as an Achilles tear or an ACL tear, but they are precarious situations where you do have to handle them appropriately. Otherwise, they can get worse and they can ruin your prime. I believe that's what kind of hurt James Harden was he tried to play on a hamstring tear, and and as noble as it is to play through an injury, like it can make it worse. So as much as I would love to tell the Lakers like, hey, like don't risk it with Luka. You got plenty of time left. Like it's almost kind of Tatum-esque in a sense, because everyone was like, wait, why is he coming back from the Achilles tear? That's a terrible idea. But it's like, well, if he looks 100%, obviously you play him. But I really hope that if Luka does not look like that, the Lakers should just back it in. Just like, listen, Luka gave your franchise hope when, let's be honest, hope was running low. So may as well just like roll it over for next year. It sucks that it ended this way, but the one thing you can't do is make it worse. But if he looks fine by the time the playoffs roll around, as long as the risk isn't there to make it worse, then play him. Obviously, like I hate that this happened for the Lakers, but I think at this point they have to play it smart.
Yeah, they should play it a lot smarter than they played it before. But yes, at this point, you do have to play it smart and see what happens there. But yeah, just very disappointing for Luka and the organization, as far as what entails as far as for the team's chances, if any, at the postseason. And again, they got clobbered on top of it, adding insult to injury or injury to insult, however you want to word it there. Your thoughts, though, my friend, on all the stuff that goes after, because as we've seen with Cade Cunningham, as we've seen with Anthony Edwards, and now we're seeing with Luka Doncic, because recent statements within the past hour in regard from his agent, putting out a long thing. They all, it's like now obligatory that they all have to put out their statements like why they should still be considered for all the postseason stuff as far as is concerned, even though they didn't qualify with the 65 games. They're looking to get, and in Luka's case, he can, an arbitrator can rule to whether or not he could be eligible for that as far as that's concerned. So it is something that is still up for contention. But all three of those players had like immediate support, supporting statements from both team and, yeah, I guess as far as representative material as far as supporting it. And again, I know that the 65 game rule comes into question with each one of them. Tell me your thoughts on this. Again, should they be considered? Again, we talked about this as well on the post game last night. And with the 65 game rule in place, I understand between the dynamic between how it counts against the players or accounts for the, more money for the owners, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, the intent should be as far as having more games to be available for the fans to see who are paying these exorbitant prices that are only going up. So your thoughts on this whole 65 game rule, the fact that it's going to affect three players if they don't qualify for it, if they don't get a allowance for it. Your thoughts, my friend, on this whole situation with the 65 games?
It's one of those, man. Like, this is becoming less and less defensible with each and every untimely injury that we see. And Cade, obviously they don't apply. And at the same time, you see how good their teams are. Would anyone dare argue? Oh, that had nothing to do with what Cade and Ant did. Of course it did. Like, both Minnesota and Detroit are where they are because of how good those two were. And it's the same thing with the Lakers. They're as good as they are because of how good Luka Doncic is. So it is a shame that, like, technically speaking, they're not going to get the credits, the official credit that they deserve for what they've done. So I do think that the NBA after this, like, I'm trying my best to phrase it. Like, unfortunately, I can't help but feel like I'm coming off like I'm defending both sides because I do get, like you pointed out, why the NBA, put in the 65 game rule, and now we're seeing the downside of that because these players weren't out because they were load managing or anything like that. They were out just because of untimely injuries. So I do think that when this season is over, if they don't get the credit that they deserve, that is going to lead to, I think, some sort of new discussion about that. Now, should they abolish the 65 game rule? I don't think they should abolish the rule in general, but I do think that this season serves as good evidence that maybe 65 games is a little harsh. They need to lower the requirements, especially when these injuries are not load management injuries. These guys are actually hurt injuries.
And in the case of Luka, I know that there's a lot of feedback on social media as well. And in this case, rightly so, as far as it's concerned. And I know Laker fans don't want to hear this, but the reason why he's at 64 games and not at 65 is because of the one game suspension that he got for his technicals. And if you're going to an arbitrator to try and see if you can do that, and obviously with all three of those cases, the reason why they want to be considered for postseason awards is monetary based as well, because they'll get incentivized on their next contracts for that, as far as or at least they'll qualify for bonuses that they wouldn't normally get. I understand it. I get that. I understand it. But Luca had that one game suspension. And I don't know if an arbitrator is going to look at that and say, hey, you know what? Had you not yelled at the referees as much as you did, you would have qualified and we wouldn't be talking right now. So I've heard that from online and social media. I've heard that online and national media too, as well. And I cannot say it's entirely wrong because in this case, it is Luka has to put the blame on himself as far as that one game suspension is concerned. That sole one game suspension. Not talking about the injury or anything like that. I'm talking about the one game suspension itself. Because I know people are going to at me and if I don't specify exactly what that is.
And if it does come down to that, I hope that is the wake up call that Luka gets of like, listen, dude, you just got to accept that they missed it. Okay, just get back and don't like. And the more you complain at the refs, like even I know this as someone who didn't even play like any more than just pick up basketball. Like the more you complain at the refs, the worse you're going to look in their eyes. The more motivated they are to just not call it on you. If all you're going to do is just cry about it. So I'm hoping that it's kind of these situations like these that kind of tell him, listen, you have got to just accept that that's the situation and just move on to the next play. Because this is not the unintended consequence of what happens when you complain to the referees and you don't seem to stop. So fingers crossed for Luka there.
Fingers crossed. Indeed. I still want him to get it. I understand. I do want him to get those bonuses and allowances, especially if Anthony Edwards and Cade Cunningham get that same kind of consideration, because all three of them are above 60 games, just not that 65. But fans out there, if an arbitrator says no, don't be surprised. It's because the reasoning behind it would be factors of the technicals. But if they give it to Anthony Edwards and they give it to Cade Cunningham, they have to give it to Luka for the 63 games or 64 games actually 64 games, but 64 games he did play. But yeah, it's kind of a touchy situation with there. But again, the worst possible scenarios for the Lakers, grade 2 hamstring pull. It is not good. It's not good, and a lot of fingers are still being pointed at this point in time. Um, and with JJ, again, a lot of fingers were pointed at him on it, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, like it's whenever these situations play out, there's always going to be like everyone's going to point fingers at someone. Like so, I mean, there's definitely going to be valid points to be made. I think across the board as far as like what happened. I really do hope that Luca does get the credit he deserves because like I mean he's Luca first of all, and it's not like he missed half the season. He missed a sizable amount, but at the same time, like, can you really argue that it's his fault? And even like you can even argue the counterpoint of like, hey, he was trying to play on it, and in a pivotal game where the Lakers were trying to make a statement against the reigning NBA champions. Like he could have missed last night's game, but then everyone would be like, "What are you? Are you ducking the smoke, so to speak?" So I do think there's a fair argument that like Luca shouldn't be punished for just trying to prove to everyone, no, we're right there with the Thunder. Granted, last night kind of showed that they're not, but I do appreciate that Luca definitely tried to play through it for a good reason.
Well, again, we'll see what happens how long he's going to be out. If he's going to be out the entire season, including the postseason, or if he's just going to be out just the regular season. We'll have to wait and see. But it is a bad scenario for the Lakers because it is a grade 2 pull. It is the worst of the two pools, just short of being a tear. So, yeah, what are your thoughts out there on the injury to Luka Doncic and his MVP chances? Should he still be given allowance to do so and be respected on that? I say yes. If they're going to do it for Anthony Edwards and also Cade Cunningham, I get the suspension. I understand the suspension, but if they're going to do it for those guys, he played more games than those guys, and I think that he should get, even with the suspension, he should still get accordance as well. But again, let me know your thoughts right there down below. But if you don't, let me know why as well. And I can't say I won't argue too hard against it because again, one of these games he cost himself, and I'll leave it at that. But again, we move on to other things as far as the MVP race itself as well, because the guys who are still in it, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, and SGA, you know, in the 30, plus point defeat, 40 plus point defeat for the Lakers in that thrashing, he had a solid game. He had what you could consider solid. Actually, is under his averages for the season, but 28-7-7, a solid performance. Didn't need a top tier performance. He only had 3 free throws, but he did enough for them to help his team propel to a tremendous victory over the Lakers. So, did he establish himself firmly as the MVP with last night's performance, or is there still more work to go between him, Wembanyama, and Nikola Jokic?
Well, I'll just say this: like, I mean, obviously, best player on best team. Like, it's hard to argue against hard to argue against that notion, especially when you are the reigning NBA champions. But as someone who has Victor Wembanyama on his fantasy team, like he is putting up some insane stat lines. Like part of me wonders if like Gilgis Alexander might win just because NBA voters are like, this is probably the last time before Wembanyama asserts himself the same way LeBron James did. Like 2008, like I think LeBron had a pretty good case, but it went to Kobe. Not saying Kobe didn't deserve it, but that was the last year where it wasn't clear that LeBron was the best player in the NBA. But after that, 10 years, LeBron was clearly the best player. Didn't win MVP, but it was clear that like, oh, he's going to win like several over these next few years. So I do wonder if that is going to come into play. I know people may say that that's stupid, but I do think there is some credence to, well, I mean, we're going to give it to Gilgis Alexander just because Wembanyama probably next year will win the MVP as long as he stays healthy. So, like, I do think that, like, the stat lines that Wembanyama's been putting up, it's kind of like like not even borderline. It's insanity what he's doing. And Gilgis Alexander is obviously like, I guess like more than anything, when it comes down to it, I do think it's between SGA and Wemby, and I won't have a problem no matter who wins it. Like I'd say it probably will be SGA, but if Wemby wins, I'll be like, you know what? Even if it's still this early in his NBA career, he earned it. So
Absolutely. Again, I wouldn't have a problem with either, although I know that people keep throwing out there the stats that he's like hundreds of minutes behind LeBron. LeBron's 41 as far as is concerned. I mean, they've managed him correctly. I know that when he came back from the injury, they were having him come off the bench for like about 3 weeks, and he was coming off the bench like for like 25 minutes a game, and still packing in the numbers then. But he is a big key to their success. And I know that he has said in his arguments, because he doesn't need representatives, coaches, GMs to say, he's an MVP. He's an MVP, because I know SGA says, "I'll let my play do the talking, and then let others talk for him." With Victor, he tells you, yeah, I give him credit because this kid's got moxie, but he backs it up. He doesn't do it in a mean way. He just does it in a very confident way in his abilities. And he said basically, defense is half the game. And people should consider that strongly in their MVP voting. I'm paraphrasing when I say that, but that's essentially what he was saying. So, with that said, if they do get first place somehow in the Western Conference, because they're only 2 games back, is that a possibility for him to go ahead again? Because again, I wouldn't be upset with it either if he does.
I think if they get the number one seed, it'd be hard to argue against Wembanyama. Of course, if I'm not mistaken, the Spurs did pretty well without him, but I mean, the Thunder have been fighting through injuries throughout the entire season. So, but I think if the Spurs do overtake the Thunder, like, and in Wembanyama's third year, narratively speaking, like, it's hard to argue against, like, what his case is. Like, it's still very impressive. Wembanyama definitely had a top two season this year, and if he's not two, I don't think there's a lot of people that would argue against that he definitely got it as MVP. And I think overtaking the Thunder, especially when they started, what was it? I can't even remember. Were they 19-0 like this season?
They
Like,
started like 20 something and one, I think, is, yeah, just some gaudy number to start off the season.
so the fact that Wembanyama and the Spurs, they still stayed right there with them, that is insane. That is insanely impressive. I can't discount Wembanyama in the MVP discourse. Like, and it like more than anything, we see prospects who get hype, and it takes a certain amount of time for them to turn into something. Like we knew Giannis Antetokounmpo was coming like in the mid 2010s, and it took him until I think his sixth NBA season for him to be like, oh yeah, I'm here. I have now arrived. Wembanyama, it took 3. So like I actually would be pretty excited if I'd be as excited as I am terrified if Wembanyama wins MVP, and I do think that he's got it, or he's earned. If he wins it, I'm going to be like, yep, he won it fair and square.
Absolutely. But right now, I still think Vegas and the DraftKings and the experts are still talking about SGA. I know that ESPN was talking about that as well, but I agree with you. If they do get taken over somehow in the final days of the season by San Antonio, then I think you have to seriously take a long, hard look at Victor Wembanyama, indeed. But again, it is, of course, Matt John from the J Notes, part of the fan-sided experience right here at NBA Observations. Truly appreciate him taking his time. Denver, speaking of, well, third place now. Third place now looks like a lock for Nikola Jokic in the MVP voting. I mean, we had and the Lakers Nation had said at the very least Luka was going to be third. Now I'm thinking that if Denver now overtakes the Lakers, it's looking more and more like Nikola Jokic, especially with his video game numbers. Again, like we always talk about Luka with 33, 8, and 8. He's still averaging an, oh, by the way, triple double. Very few centers have ever, well, I think he is the only center to really go ahead and achieve. But with that, my friend, Denver has regained its mojo heading into an important matchup against those San Antonio Spurs this weekend, my friend. Denver's won 7 in a row. Your thoughts, my friend? Is Denver now a team once again to worry about in the Western Conference as far as maybe spoiling the party for either San Antonio or OKC?
Well, I think they always have the talent to be that way. I mean, you know that they were my title picks, so them winning
Yes.
7 games in a row is obviously a great development for them this late in the season because they've struggled with injuries and inconsistency. Aaron Gordon? Did he come back? Is he
He
still?
did come back. He's been like back. No, but he's not. He's been back, but not back. Meaning he's been out there. Then they sit him down. Then he's out there. Percy is as far as excuse me, Watson has been back out there recently because I know he was out with a hamstring injury himself. So they've got essentially their team back, but again, they're not playing a lot of their players all at the same time right now, just to go ahead and be able to give you an idea on that. But yes, both guys have been playing in most of their games.
Yeah, so I mean, like Denver, to me, like they could be like Oklahoma City was 10 years ago when they had Durant, Westbrook, and they kind of became the afterthought in the West when the Warriors won 73 games and the Spurs won 67, and everyone thought it's going to be Warriors Spurs. They're just that much better than everyone else, and then OKC kind of like it gets forgotten now because they couldn't finish the job against Golden State, but like they were right there. Like I do think Denver definitely has the potential to not only be up 3-1 in a series if everything goes their way, but also to potentially, to even seal the deal because they've done it before. Like so, I do like the Nuggets are showing at the very least that they should not be counted out, and they have Nikola Jokic, so that was already a given. But them kind of putting it together now is definitely a good sign for them and bad for the NBA. And I do think that if this can continue into the playoffs, then obviously like they are not only number 3 behind the Spurs and the Thunder, but I do think that both the Spurs and the Thunder are being like, oh crap, they figured it out, and they also have experience, so we have a series on our hands.
That's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what Denver brings to the table. Like an early sign of it will be this weekend when they play San Antonio. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup indeed. And for the Lakers and Lakers fans that now knowing that they don't have Luka Doncic for the rest of the season, hanging on to third hanging on at this point is I don't know exactly how they feel about it because the fact is you may not have Luka in the playoffs as well. So we'll see. Again, it's very tenuous right now for Lakers fans, but we like to keep third place if we can and see how it goes from there. But before we hand it out, my friend, before we get you an update on what you're doing at the J Notes, want to talk about the Eastern Conference, which you are very familiar with. And, obviously right now what's going on, Detroit has still played well without Cade Cunningham, to the fact that I think they've pretty much sewn up the Eastern Conference at this point, at least the first spot. But I do think also as well with Boston, Boston is the prohibitive favorite right now coming out of the East, or what people are looking at as far as, yeah, that with Tatum coming back, even about 65-70% of what Tatum did you say about 70%? Did you think he's at right now?
Tatum, I don't remember giving out any percentage, but I
Oh,
do
okay.
think
I was talking to someone else. My apologies on that. But he looks about, effective wise, 70 to 75. I guess if you could say that.
and climbing, I would say.
It just got to get his outside shot. His outside shot has not returned yet, although his volume of outside shooting certainly has. But I'll leave it at
Yeah.
that. But defensively as well, he doesn't look quite as quick, but that's to be expected. I'm not gonna, he's still 6'10" and out there and can do quite a bit of things. So I'm not, again, him coming out there and just being a big bonus for what Boston can do in the East. But the New York Knicks, so many people's thoughts on as far as their favorites coming into the season. Thought they loaded up. Thought they finally got a coach that would help them on the offensive end. Thought they would get a coach that helps or plays the actual rotation past man number 5. That thought they had everything going for them, but the season has it's not been a total disappointment, but obviously they would like to be in the spot that, or at least New York Knicks fans thought they were going to be in the spot where Detroit is now. You also have the fact that the love-hate affair New York and Mike Brown seemingly has for Cat at this moment. Even though he's still averaging great numbers, he doesn't play in crunch times on some occasions. So, your thoughts on this whole situation with the New York Knicks, and do you see it lining itself up for a playoff run?
I mean, like it's hard to kind of get a read on what the Knicks are. Like I think I talked about this the last time we talked about them. Like they handled their business against Boston. I think the last time they beat the crap out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was also kind of a product of Boston just couldn't hit anything, and New York was hitting everything. And that happens, and that's what happened in the playoffs. For crying out loud, Boston had the first 2 games up by 20 against New York, and they lost both of them. So it's definitely kind of a wild card kind of situation with them. They're definitely more of a wild card than say Denver in the West, where I think, yeah, we know like Denver can absolutely overtake San Antonio and Oklahoma City if they do put it together by the playoffs. But the Knicks, it's kind of like I really don't know. And this is irrelevant. Like, but this thought just came to my mind. What would be great is if we had, because the best player in the Eastern Conference right now is on one of the worst Eastern Conference teams, and that's Giannis. Like it, and so like I just there's no like I'd say in the Eastern Conference, even though Detroit has been so impressive, there's no Titan that is the favorite right now. You can talk about the flaws with each and every team, so it's a shame that Milwaukee has fallen as far as they have because typically they were the team that everyone kind of looked to like, okay, this is the team we have to beat if we're gonna make it to the NBA Finals. So with the Knicks, like I'm curious to see like I'm pessimistic about them, but that's me. And more importantly, I could because they did it last year, I could see them beating Boston if the stars align for them to do it. But I'm also intrigued to see what would happen if they say don't make it back to the conference finals. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to get them to think, okay, we need to make some changes? We have a good team, not a great one. Like, and I think that could push them to be like, all right, we have to. It's Giannis or nothing this offseason. So, like, it's really hard for me to say like what's going to happen. I do think they made smart moves getting Jose Alvarado. I don't think Jeremy Sohan has worked out for them very well.
No, no.
Turns out not being a shooter kind of hurts you on a playoff team. So like if Detroit can get they've been impressive without Cade Cunningham. Like I think Boston really has kind of asserted themselves. Like I'm trying my best not to sound biased, but it's hard not to because they've just been working Tatum back. It's not been perfect, but it's actually gone about as well as anyone could have hoped it would. So like there's a fair, I guess that because New York is such a wild card that there's a fair case that they won't get out of the second round, and there's a fair case that they will be representing the East in the NBA Finals this season. But it all depends on what happens when they go up against the creme de la creme.
We'll see. And I do you think? Let me say, put this. What is the East matchup you think, provided Cade comes back? What do you think is the East matchup that would determine whether it's in the second round or in the Eastern Conference Championship Finals, Eastern Conference Finals? Which matchup do you think is the one that you think in the East Coast will be for all the marbles as far as going to the finals is concerned?
Like I
Do you think like Detroit, Cleveland? Do you think Boston, Detroit? Do you think Boston, New York? Do you think New York, Cleveland? Do you think New York, Detroit? Which of those matchups do you think? Like for instance, a lot of people are pointing to when OKC finally meets San Antonio. That's the matchup for the finals, wherever or whenever that happens. It's going to be a Western Conference Finals, but you know what I'm saying. Which is the matchup in the East, though, that you think most typically represents the matchup that will send that team to the finals, whether it's in the second round or in the conference finals?
um gun to my head, I think Celtics versus Pistons. I think those two aren't as unpredictable as the Knicks are. But I would. It's almost like Wembanyama's MVP case, where it's like, yeah, if the Knicks make it to the NBA Finals, I won't be surprised. But I've unlike Wembanyama's MVP case, I've just seen enough from the sample size, and I'm kind of like, I'm not confident in this team. So I would say it's probably going to be Celtics Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like the Knicks inconsistency along with the Cavaliers inconsistency gives me the impression that like as talented as they are, like I just compared to the consistency of both Boston and Detroit, like Boston was able to have the season they had without Tatum for most of it, and they're now in an even better position than they were. So like I do think it's I hope the Cade does come back. I really want to see the Pistons at full strength. Like they deserve it. They've worked their way up to become this team. Like I want to see them being that up and coming team going against a team that has proven time and time again how far they can go in Boston. Like I'd love to see that matchup, and I do think that matchup determines who goes to the NBA Finals from the East.
Well, there you go, my friend. I truly appreciate your insight and infinite wisdom on that. As far as your observations on the NBA, it is Matt John. You got to go ahead and catch him on the J Notes, my friend. We're out. Hopefully, you'll be by next week so we can go ahead and start previewing these playoff matchups because we're going to get closer and closer to it. We'll actually be a couple days away from the end of the season, so we'll probably have a clearer idea who faces who in the playoffs. So with that, my friend, what you working on the J Notes?
Well, with the J Notes, we've added a new writer. We basically have a pitching rotation now of writers, of very talented writers, and of course, we're focusing towards the future. So we're focusing on draft coverage, free agency coverage. We're even still harping on Jaren Jackson Jr. because that still has been one of the most monumental trades the Jazz have ever made in franchise history. If you want all of that, read all the stuff that we have back of the J Notes.
Telling you, Sensabaugh and Filipowski. Those are nice bench guys to have coming up next season. If you guys well, I'll take them in LA if you guys don't want them, and I'll just say that.
I'm intrigued to see what they do with those guys because the talent is obviously like they weren't a waste of picks. Though I anticipated they would be better this season than they have been. At the same time, like it fits snugly with what's happened with the Jazz this season. Like with Filipowski, like I'm really intrigued to see what they do with him because he's going to be playing behind Markkanen, Kessler, JJJ, probably Nurkic. All like indications are to me that they are going to keep Nurkic. So, and if that's the case, like where does Filipowski factor into all of this? So, like, I am intrigued to see because I also do believe they have a $15 million mid-level exception this offseason. Like, even though they are going to be spending a lot, like there's so many possibilities at the Jazz's disposal this summer. I'm very much looking. I do think that depending on how high a pick they get this year, they could be very scary for the league next year.
Like I say, if Danny Ainge doesn't need them, Sensabaugh and Filipowski would be much improving for our bench. Indeed, I'll just say that.
But
And they'll
Ainge
get with our guys, they'll get lots of time in starts as well.
Yeah. Knowing what I know about Danny Ainge, if he were to trade those guys, he would not just dump them.
Okay, I'm just asking for a friend.
I get it.
A friend in El Segundo at the UCLA Health Center, and I'll just leave it at that. But again, it is Matt John from the James. Sensabaugh's just absolutely been killing it, man. I hope you have him on your fantasy team as a late pickup. I put him on like several of mine.
My fantasy league, like the way it's scored, it doesn't actually value scores that much, and that's what
Really?
Sensabaugh does. Like it's why Wembanyama is so dominant because it really values like blocks and steals.
Okay.
So like it's more of a value of guys who do everything. Sensabaugh is good, but he's not exactly who you want if you want to rack up the points, no matter how much he scores.
No, and those guys again. You have to if you let's say the Lakers tomorrow traded for them for their bench, like or you kept them for Utah and they became like your seventh or eighth guys, whatnot. You have to put defenders around them. Those
Mhm.
two guys especially because they however prolific those guys are at 3 point shooting offense, they do have their weaknesses in the defensive department, but yeah, they can definitely light it up, and that's something obviously that having some two guys off the bench that can light it up like that are like right now very very interesting indeed.
You've also kind of given me a little bit of a crazy thought. Like I think that with next year with the Jazz, this is going to be their best season in ages. Like the talent, it's kind of ambiguous what their ceiling is. The talent that they possess is kind of insane. Like I could see Sensabaugh and Filipowski. It's also going to kind of be a test for them of are you a contributor on this team long term? I compare it to back with Cleveland, like when they had LeBron James joining a team, like, but a few months in, they were like, you know what, Dion Waiters, have a nice life. So I do wonder if the Jazz they won't necessarily do the same thing with Sensabaugh Filipowski. They will be like, if you can't help this team, there's the door. So that's what I am looking forward to that next season.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens. But again, it is Matt John. Please go ahead and check out what he's doing today on the J Notes, part of the fan sided experience. Well, Matt, it's always great to have you here next week. Again, looking forward to start lining up those playoff matchups as we actually like we'll be like 1 or 2 games away from the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to it. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'll say this much: I love the fact that Joe Mazzulla took a shot at the Coach of the Year because if he wins it, that's hilarious. That's hilariously ironic and awkward.
It is. The only other candidate I would say is Johnson, Mike Johnson Johnson in San Antonio.
I, I think actually there's a very very strong competition this year. Jordan Ott in Phoenix, JB Bickerstaff in Detroit. I love Mitch Johnson in San Antonio and
Mitch
Missoula in
Johnson. Sorry,
Boston.
sorry, sorry.
I there's so many guys have a good solid case this year. Like I mean I don't know who's going to win, but like I'm looking forward to seeing who does. But I just love the fact that Missoula was just like, yeah, I don't really care if I win, but there's a solid chance he might.
I think he's the front runner right now because of where a lot of people, including myself, had them right around 500 or at best. I think was what we're targeting, and they've exceeded that. Same thing with San Antonio; they were maybe going to be like a seventh or eighth seed. People saw them like a gradual rise, and then they've well exceeded that. But with Mitch Johnson, it's the fact that he's got that cheat code, that 7677 cheat code. That's right there. Play. I think him going forward will always have a detriment because of the fact that he has Victor Wembanyama on his team. As far as the fact any coach of the year voting, there will be some people just not wanting to vote for him because he has Victor. I mean, I could coach that team and Victor would get me 40 plus wins. So I think that's always going to be a detriment to his chances, but I think he's good with that.
Yeah, I mean they held it against Missoula for the fact that he inherited a good team and he kind of proved that no, you give me, I can live with not having Jason Tatum and we'll still be good. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I'm looking forward to seeing who wins. Like if Missoula wins, like I do think he's earned it, but I won't be mad if some of the other candidates I listed win.
Well, there you go. Indeed, it is Matt John from the J Notes, part of the fan side experience. Matt, always great to have you here, providing your insight, and of course, every single week you're here, your NBA observations.